The Trakan reprisal drifted through the void like an obsidian dagger, its sleek form casting a faint purple glimmer against the backdrop of distant stars. Inside, the Zar'kua warriors, resplendent in their segmented armor, readied themselves for glory. The Zar'kua were apex hunters, tall, angular, with scaled exoskeletons that shimmered faintly like oil on water. Their forward-jointed legs coiled with anticipation, and their elongated maws clicked in ritual preparation. Captain Zalatek stood at the prow of the boarding assembly, flanked by his elite officers. His frilled crest fluttered as he spoke. The humans believed themselves strong. Their ship, unyielding resolve, limps through the void, crippled and alone. Yet their pride will be their downfall. The chorus of snarling agreement echoed across the comms. Zalatek's upper mandibles curved into a satisfied expression. Plasma rifles hummed with lethal energy as the warriors loaded their blades. Vibro-sabers designed to hum with bone-shearing precision. They had boarded countless species before. They knew the sound of victory before it began. The boarding craft detached, gliding like silent predators toward the human warship's exposed flank. The plasma cutters seared through the hull, their heat creating smoking gashes in the metal skin. The Zar'kua stormed through in disciplined columns, expecting chaos, fear, and swift surrender. Instead, they found stillness. The narrow halls of the human ship were dark and quiet, too quiet. Zalatek's sensory quills twitched with unease. "Proceed," he growled. His warriors surged forward, taloned feet clicking against the alloy floor. Then the first shot rang out. It wasn't the shrill whine of plasma, but the thunder of kinetic discharge. Zalatek barely registered the noise before the warrior in front of him detonated. His chest plate shattered into shards as crimson ichor sprayed the bulkheads. "Ambush!" Zalatek barked. Human shapes emerged from the shadows with terrifying speed. They didn't glide like hunters, they charged. The Zar'kua were used to combat from distance, where precision and plasma fire ruled the day. But here, in these brutal confines, there was no room for elegant warfare. The humans wielded weapons that seemed primitive but roared with deadly finality. "Shotguns!" Zalatek's mind hissed the translation. Heavy barrels belched fire and lead. Another Zar'kua crumpled as a volley shredded his thigh and torso. The Zar'kua returned fire, plasma bolts hissing through the air. But the humans didn't retreat. They pressed forward, bodies low, shields formed from ship debris strapped to their arms, their movements viciously efficient. Zalatek's second-in-command, Koelek, raised his vibro-saber to strike. A human hurled an improvised incendiary device, a jar filled with fire-slick liquid. Koelek's armor ignited in an instant. The Zar'kua warrior writhed in an unrecognizable scream as he became a living pyre. "They use fire like beasts," one warrior snarled in disbelief. "No," Zalatek corrected, horror dawning. "Like hunters who refuse to die." The humans fought as though the ship itself was alive with them. They swung scavenged pipes, hammers, even lengths of sharpened steel. They hurled canisters filled with smoke, obscuring vision in the cramped corridors. The Zar'kua's superior senses became a liability. The thick chemical fog clogged their nostrils and scalded their eyes. In a side passage, a squad of Zar'kua managed to regroup, their plasma rifles tearing into human ranks, until a deafening cry came from above. A human, clad in heavy armor painted with skull motifs, dropped from an overhead maintenance shaft. The impact sent one Zar'kua sprawling. The human raised a shotgun point blank, the blast shredding the warrior's head into pulp. Before the others could react, the human pulled a brutal knife, serrated like a predator's jaw, and plunged it into the neck joint of another. "White the kid up?" "We must retreat," one of Zalatek's officers cried. Zalatek's crest flared with defiance. Retreat? Against prey? But this was no ordinary prey. "Consolidate positions," Zalatek ordered. The Zar'kua pushed toward a wider bulkhead, a defensive choke point. Plasma turrets unfurled from their gauntlets as they established a line of fire. For a moment, the humans fell back. A brief, fragile calm settled over the corridor. Then came the sound. Slow metallic clang, 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 reverberated down the corridor. Zar'kua squinted through the haze. The noise grew louder, methodical and mocking. A figure emerged, larger than the others. The human wore armor painted dark gray, streaked with soot and crimson. His visor reflected the plasma glow like a predator's gleaming eyes. He held a massive, multi-barreled weapon in his hands. The barrels began to spin. "Suppressing fire," the human roared. The corridor became a maelstrom of death. The heavy chain gun vomited a stream of high-caliber rounds, perforating the bulkheads and Zar'kua alike. The defensive line disintegrated. Zar'kua saw his warrior's chitinous armor rupture and splinter under the unrelenting storm of lead. Desperation gnawed at his mind. The Zar'kua were disciplined, but the humans were something worse. Relentless. The phrase from intercepted transmissions surfaced in his thoughts. Close quarters specialists. Humans had embraced the most intimate savage form of warfare. There was no hesitation in their strikes, no faltering in their charge. These weren't soldiers. They were berserkers, clad in steel. Zar'kua activated his communicator. "Recall, get to the shuttles," he commanded. The surviving Zar'kua fell back toward the breach point. The corridors seemed to close in around them as more human combatants appeared from side passages and ventilation shafts. A Zar'kua warrior was yanked into a dark maintenance tunnel, his screams echoing as he was dragged into the unknown. At the breach point, Zar'kua saw the disastrous truth. Their boarding craft was gone, incinerated by a timed charge. The humans had anticipated everything. "Impossible," Zar'kua whispered. The remaining Zar'kua formed a desperate ring, backs to one another. Zar'kua raised his vibro-saber, defiant. "We are Zar'kua. We are hunters born. We will not die cowering." The human figure stepped forward, removing his cracked helmet. His face was bloodied but victorious. The eyes beneath were cold as a winter sea. "You boarded the wrong ship," the human growled. Zar'kua's mandibles quivered in fury as the humans raised their shotguns in unison. The Zar'kua did not surrender. The ship reverberated with one final deafening volley. The corridor fell silent. Later, aboard the bridge of the unyielding Resolve, Captain Harker watched the aftermath through the vid feed. The Zar'kua boarding party had been annihilated. "Report," Harker said. "No survivors," one of his officers replied. "They never stood a chance in close quarters." Harker's gaze hardened. "Let them spread the tale. Humanity doesn't fight like anyone else." The bridge crew exchanged grim nods. They all knew the truth. In the cold, silent void of space, the ferocity of man was the deadliest weapon of all.